At any point, did how you pray or communicate with God change during the course of your life? Did you ever stop, for example? Do you pray now? How do you pray? Let's think for a minute about spirituality, because we know that our spirituality can play a big role in how we approach our mortality, but also in how we live our life, right? Spirituality is, of course, a bigger, broader topic than religion. It's kind of ubiquitous, isn't it? Sort of everywhere, but also hard to pin down, right? I think that whether people are religious or not, we often find elements of our spiritual nature, though, in things like how we define our sense of purpose, the things that we've made sacrifices for, or the things that we believe in or we're committed to, the things that we find kind of awesome or beautiful, right? The things that make us feel kind of small in relation to something bigger, and in the things that feel maybe sacred or special or set apart from the everyday. We all have a kind of a spiritual nature. I think that it's important to acknowledge that it's also perfectly normal to feel an ebb and a flow in relation to our spirituality. So there can be periods in life where we feel like we're more spiritually fulfilled or, spiritually awake kind of thing. And then there can be others where we feel a little spiritually uncertain or even depleted. That's perfectly normal, and that's usually for very good reasons. Let's take a minute now, though, to think about your spirituality and how it might have developed over time. So first, was your family religious? If they were, how did they practice? What was that like for you? What did you like about that? What did you dislike about that? Did you discuss religion or spirituality much in your home? What did your parents believe in? Did their beliefs stay the same throughout the course of their life? Do you feel they lived in accordance with those beliefs? What values seemed most important to them? So who were the people that you would say influenced you the most spiritually? Was there anyone you kind of looked up to spiritually or had a big impact on your sort of spiritual outlook, right? Were there any people who had a negative impact or effect on your spirituality? Sometimes there is. Do you believe in God? And God here could be a specific entity for you. You might have a very specific picture of God. It can also be a more abstract kind of concept. Do you believe in something bigger, right? Do you believe in an afterlife? Why or why not? When you were younger, do you remember praying or speaking with God? What was this like for you? At any point, did how you pray or communicate with God change during the course of your life? Did you ever stop, for example? Do you pray now? How do you pray? Was there ever a time in your life in which you felt like you lost your faith or questioned your faith or questioned your beliefs? What was happening? What was going on? And how did this resolve or perhaps not resolve? Do you keep any spiritual items or religious objects that are meaningful for you? What types of sacrifices have you made during the course of your life? Because sacrifices will tell us a lot about what's important to us and what we're willing to give things up for, right? What values were important to you that prompted you to make those sacrifices? So, if you gave time to something, if you gave money to something, energy, what kind of prompted that? Are there any specific sacrifices that your family made that feel important to you or meaningful? Does the experience of nature or beauty stimulate spiritual emotions for you? Have you ever visited a place that was spiritually significant to you? Have you ever engaged in a ritual that felt sacred? Can you describe what that was like for you? Are there any readings or books or artworks which have left a spiritual impression on you or moved you in some way? And can you talk a little bit about that or think a little bit about that? Throughout the course of your life so far, what people, places, events, or gifts are you the most grateful for? What are you the most grateful for so far? How are your beliefs similar or different to those of your parents or other family members? And how are they similar? What's the same? Is there any common ground? Can you think of a time in your life when you felt very clear about your sense of purpose, the meaning of life kind of thing, what you're supposed to be doing? What was it and how did it feel? And can you think about a time in your life when you may have felt a little more uncertain about that, right? Not really sure where you were going, not really sure what you should be doing. Right now, does your sense of purpose feel clear to you? Do you know what you're supposed to be doing? Do you know what you want to be doing? Do you know what you're contributing? And do you feel like this is valued by others? Now, some people have moments that stand out for them spiritually, right? So sometimes you'll hear people describe this as like feeling God's presence, right? Or feeling someone who has died, sensing them, feeling like they're with them, feeling spiritually moved by something good or beautiful. Have you ever had any moments like this that stand out for you? How do you feel about forgiveness? Do you find forgiving yourself difficult or easy, right? What about other people? In general, have you forgiven yourself for any past mistakes and other people as well? Or is this something you're kind of still working on? Is there anything that helps you with this? Have you ever felt forgiven by God? If not, how do you imagine that would feel? Have you ever had the experience of maybe being in a state of suffering, either physically or psychologically, sometimes both, but also kind of feeling consoled in some way or knowing that it would be okay? So some faiths refer to this as grace. How do you understand this experience? What does it mean to you? Have you ever felt loved by God? Have you ever felt love for God, even if other feelings were present? And is that something you simply sense, or is it more specific? Can you put words on that? If you've experienced this before, or if you could experience more of this, how would the meaning of your life feel different? That's a big question. What words would you use to describe your relationship with God? Alternatively, is there an image that comes to mind that captures it? Okay, if you made it through all of those videos on Reminiscence, well done. What was that like for you? That's a lot. Hopefully, it might have felt a little bit pleasant, right? Hopefully. Maybe a little grounding, if not even a little bittersweet at moments. I think that good reminiscence is a little like coming home after a long journey. It's a little like when we've been traveling somewhere for a bit, and travel can be kind of hard work. And sometimes, when we're traveling, our surroundings change and things are different, and it's a bit of work and effort. And more often than not, there's hiccups and things like that. We're a little bit uprooted, right? But then maybe we get home and then we walk in the door, and even if we see all the little things about our house and our home that aren't perfect, like that door that jams, or maybe it's a bit of a mess because nobody's been cleaning it, this kitchen tile we never liked. We always hated that kitchen tile. Whatever it is, even we register all of those idiosyncrasies, it's still likely to be the site of some good times. It's still ours. There's always something good about this, right? And I think that's what reminiscence is like, a kind of a coming home to an imperfect house that we can't help but love all the same because it's been the container for all this living, right? Held all the good and the bad, and it's still kind of standing, right? That's how coming home to yourself feels, right? And I think reminiscence along the way supports this.